All right, Tim, this is Full Throttle, a game you designed. And first of all, just let's talk about the game. What do you do in Full Throttle? What kind of game is it?
You play a biker named Ben, and you take on his personality, and it's a graphic adventure where he's on the run for a crime he didn't commit, and the law's chasing him, and a murder happens, and the real killer...
After Day of the Tentacle, they asked Dave and I to come up with 2 game ideas, and we're kind of like, oh God, we need to come up with some new game ideas quick. I actually didn't know what to do next. And one of our animators, his friend came over, and she was talking about what she did that summer and how she'd spent it in Alaska. And she hung around a lot at this biker bar where these guys named Smilin' Rick or Big Phil. Big Rick and Smilin' Phil, or Big Phil and Smilin' Rick. Big Rick and Smilin' Phil. She hung out, and they would just do donuts in the muddy parking lot and talk about going to Sturgis. I was like, what's Sturgis? I was thinking how these guys sounded like pirates. Kind of like pirates and cowboys. They sounded like they were living this fantasy world outside of modern society that had its own rules. And I thought that would be a great setting for a game. Kind of like pirates. I mean bikers. And I've told that one before. Am I telling the same stories over and over again?
We were trying to do a biker game just because the games have been done before. It was either, it's always science fiction or fantasy, medieval, right. And just no one had really touched, the Wild One or Easy Rider. And computers and Harleys, they go together more than people would think.
Management was very worried because they were like, are they gonna be driving around selling drugs and killing people and stuff? And I was like, no, this is fun bikers. They just love to ride.
Did Lucas have more trust in you, having delivered a hit title previously?
They didn't think of Day of the Tentacle as a hit. In the old days, it felt like there was a kind of a ceiling as far as you couldn't break through with adventure games to that wider audience, because games had broken through in first-person shooters and console platformers had broken past that, but adventure games seemed to be in this kind of 200,000 people range. And it was like, how do we break past that? And we were always trying to think of, is it they want more action in the game, or do they want less dialogue, or do they want a different interface, or we'd be guessing at all these things, and we were always trying to experiment with different things. And Full Throttle definitely went more cinematic, had an action main character.
When I'm on the road, I'm indestructible. No one can stop me. But they try.
Yeah, Ben Throttle was inspired a lot by both Toshiro Mifune's character in Yojimbo and Mad Max and The Road Warrior, those 2 movies. And they both have this kind of stoic main character who's obviously a capable, strong individual, but not pushing that on people, just kind of like wants to be left alone, but is constantly being, pushed in situations where he has to show that he can demolish everybody around. But I always thought there was some relationship between those 2 characters. And then one day I ordered the original screenplay for Mad Max, and the first scene of it in the screenplay had him coming to a fork on the road, and he parked and he went up to this old wreck and he pulled the bumper off and he threw it in the air, and whichever way the bumper ended up pointing, that's the way he drives off. And that's the same way that Yojimbo starts, with him doing it with a stick when he's walking down the path. I was like, I knew it. I knew it was all the same character. Should have done that at the beginning of Full Throttle. My Ben book, my big book of Ben. This is like the story document and puzzle outline. This is the design document basically for the game. God, this makes me think of White Zombie. I was just playing White Zombie constantly while I was listening to this. This is a pretty ambitious game. Like, I feel like on every level we were just like,
we got in way over our heads.
We wanted to have full screen animation, but also Larry had this idea about doing a lot of cuts to close-ups, because if you cut to a close-up, you save on animation. Like, having a guy run into a room is really expensive to animate all these joints and stuff. But if you do a close-up of somebody turning and looking and hearing footsteps, and then you try to cut to another close-up of someone coming into the frame, like you're like telling the story of someone entering the room, only moving like a few things.
If we edit enough, no one shot will have that much animation in it. Just as the animation's getting complicated, cut to another angle, But still, the scene was going to last X amount of frames long. It's like somewhere in there you're going to have to animate something.
And I remember Darren Stinnett, the project leader of Dark Forces, who took the time, he just like, well, I saw your demos. I had no idea you guys were pushing it that far. And I was like, are we? I had no idea. Are we pushing it that far? Because we were so deep into it, didn't realize. I think when the company saw that first demo, they're like, "Oh, this could be cool. It's got some music and it's exciting," and they got behind it at that point. You could feel kind of excitement building as the game was getting closer to launch, and when it launched, it was like a big hit. And it was a period where LucasArts was having a lot of hits, like TIE Fighter had done really well, and Dark Forces, and then Full Throttle. And Full Throttle sold like 1 million units, which is we'd never done that at that point with the adventure games. And it felt like we had reached a lot of new people with the game. I feel like it helps to have a big explosion on the front of the box. I've always had that theory. It's a guy doing a wheelie, big explosion. They asked me if I wanted to do a sequel, and I was like, I'm already thinking about this Day of the Dead thing. It's gonna be great, you're gonna love it. And they're like, okay. And I think it was the fact that that Throttle had done well, they kind of gave me a little benefit of the doubt when I said I want to make a game about skeletons. They're like, oh, okay. How many explosions are going to be on the cover? Yeah.
Everything you count on to survive could just disappear. When you wake up in a pile of trouble, there's only one way out. And it usually starts with a lot of punching.
Double Fine is happy to announce that we are remastering Full Throttle and bringing it to PlayStation 4 and Vita. Full Throttle Remastered will have updated graphics and sound and developer commentary and multiple control options. All the awesome remastered features you've come to expect, plus a complete unaltered original, and is in there too. It's one of our biggest announcements since.
One of the fun things about the remasters is the reunion of the team. Like we had the team come down and do the commentary. It's like a lot of people I haven't seen in years, and so it's fun to get together and share the stories. Everybody remembers different stories than I do.
Something came up, and I had to find Tim and bring him back because there was a bug that had to be fixed, and we had to ship this game. And so all I knew was that Tim had gone to play pool in San Francisco. And I called every pool hall in San Francisco looking for him.
This makes me sound like a totally different person than I am.
But he wasn't
He
wasn't in any of them. Until finally...
Are you kidding me?
Finally, I found him in some bar with a pool table.
Oh my goodness.
And
it was a kilowatt.
When he picked up the bar phone, he was terrified. Because he was like, how did you find me?
And I've been retelling the same stories for so many years. It was great to hear new ones.
And I heard this rumble. And I was like, wow, what is that? And it just got louder and louder, and the car started to shake, and then the Hells Angels.
It took forever, because we're like, we can't cut away. It's got to be this epic piece at the end.
Wait a minute, guys. I just want to clarify. That sounds good?
Yeah.
And we go, yeah, no, it sounds good.
I just wonder who the audience for Full Throttle is, what they turned into, what type of gamers they
obviously, everyone who played Full Throttle in the old days has now become a biker because it made such an impact on them. So they just got to come home, park those bikes, sit down on the computer and play a game. I always wondered, like, someday I'm going to be in a biker bar and I'm going to be surrounded by bikers and they're about to beat me up. And then one of them's like, hey, wait a second. Are you wearing a Corley Motors t-shirt? And then they would be like, that game was too short. Boom, 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 boom.